Thank you for joining us. My name is Dr. Steve Woodard. It is my honor to serve as our Dean of Access and Completion, and it is my privilege to serve as our Master of Ceremonies for part one of our journey together today. Each year, Edmonds College celebrates the life, work, and message of Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. Today's celebration brings together our community through dance, music, and inspirational speakers to encourage growth as culturally competent citizens and residents who consistently demonstrate understanding and respect of our changing world and community. It is only 3 weeks into 2021, yet 2021 has already grounded us in the lowest of lows in the form of an insurrection, but it has also provided us a clear pathway to the highest of highs with yesterday's inauguration. Today's celebration of Dr. King's life and legacy is designed to keep you where you are at, but get you moving forward as well. Meet you where you're at, but get you moving forward as well. With that in mind, we encourage you to use the chat for your comments and questions. Trust that moderators will be following along so that no one gets lost along the way. We also ask that you join us again at 2 p.m. today on this same channel or road for part 2 of Facing the Rising Sun. That event will also feature songs, spoken words, and readings inspired by the civil rights movement and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. himself. This year's event is called Facing the Rising Sun, taken from the lyrics of Lift Our Voice and Sing, which speaks to our responsibility to fight for the civil rights of all. Please rise in body or in spirit as Tyler Beauchamps performs Lift Every Voice and Sing by James Weldon Johnson.
Every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastising rod, felt in the day with hope unborn had died, but yet with a steady beat and not our weary feet of which our Father signed. We have come over a way that with tears have been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past till we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path, we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee, and lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our name, till then. True to our God, true to our name, till then. True to our God, true to our name, till then.
Ooh. Thank you, Tyler, brother. Thank you, Brother Tyler. He has genuinely blessed you, and you have turned around and blessed us this morning. Thank you so much. It is now my great honor and privilege to introduce you all to our president, Dr. Ahmet Singh, followed immediately by Jae-yoon Sung, our student executive officer for diversity.
Hello, everyone. I'm Amit Singh, President of Edmonds College. On behalf of Board of Trustees and the college, I'm honored to welcome you to our virtual celebration of the life and teachings of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Each year we come together to remember Dr. King and encourage each other to stay engaged in our community and serve with understanding and respect for our changing world. As a campus community, we strive to be a place that is welcoming and respectful, where every person's contribution is heard and valued, and where everyone feels a true sense of belonging. The theme of this year's celebration is Facing the Rising Sun. We have had much to overcome over the past year. There have been many dark days, and there's still much work to be done to advance equity and inclusion at our college and in our community. However, I'm optimistic and confident that we will move forward together. We can look to the important lessons of Dr. King to lead us toward a better tomorrow. Thank you for joining us today to celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. King. Thank you.
Good day, Edmonds community. My name is Jian Song, Executive Officer for Diversity with Associated Students of Edmonds College. It is a great honor for me to join this event. Living almost a year in this pandemic, many things has happened in the United States. Starting in early 2020 with the killings of George Floyd, people has used their voices and taken action throughout the Black Lives Matter movement. Along with this, we have seen continuous violence such as the incident of the Capitol riots a few days ago. These struggles and disputes seemingly imprisoned us in darkness. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only lights can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that." Like the quotes that Dr. King made, we have tons of chances to make our society better. I, as a world citizen, think it is a favorable moment to remember Martin Luther King Jr. and his accomplishment that he made for us, and also continue to promote his visions of equalities and unity. Though we may have taken steps toward social change, it is still our duty to move forward with the intentions of bettering our world. This is the time to start another revolution that will allow us to become one big united society. As a student living in this historical period, we, the Edmonds community, will keep educating ourselves and the people around us. Also, as a future leaders of the world, it is our responsibility to keep learning, like our school's mission, teaching, learning community. We will never stop challenging new things and experiencing the bigger world. Thank you and stay safe.
Thank you, Dr. Singh, and thank you, SEO Song. Your words are very moving and appreciated. And SEO Song, please give that puppy of yours a hug for us. That was a good reminder, everybody, that no one signed up for this, and we're in remote status for a lot of the reasons that are going unspoken about today. That noted. Next, we will take a few moments to acknowledge our past, present, and future as guests on the Snohomish tribal lands. Please welcome in this original blessing composed by alumni Israel Scott Rehume, recorded at our beautiful Black Box Theater in February of 2020, and performed by Scott and Edmonds College staff member and alumnae, Maisie Brown.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Scott. My first name is Israel. What we do when we start off these openings is acknowledge that the land that we are on is occupied, stolen land of the Snohomish people, who are the Snohomish people. The Snohomish people have been on this land, and without this land, the school wouldn't be here. So we just want to acknowledge that fact. We are all learning, and that's exactly what we're here for, you know. The song that I'm going to sing is an appreciation song. It was a very great honor for me to be here to honor Martin Luther King, you know, all this kind of stuff that is still going on today, you know, that the struggle is still here and the struggle is real, you know. This is an appreciation song that I composed myself for the Stillaguamish tribe. I made it's a song that I made for them because they took me on my first canoe journey, and without that, I wouldn't even be standing right here with the drum in my hand. Oh, 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 whoa, oh, whoa, oh, 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 oh. oh, 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 whoa, oh, 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 whoa, oh, 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 oh. Whoa, oh, 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 whoa, oh, whoa, oh, 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 whoa, oh, 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 whoa, oh, 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 whoa, oh, 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 oh. Whoa, oh, 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 whoa, oh, 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 oh. Whoa, oh, 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 whoa, oh, whoa, oh, 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 oh. Whoa, oh, 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 whoa, oh, whoa, oh, whoa, oh, oh, whoa, oh, 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 whoa, oh, 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 oh. Whoa, oh, 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 whoa, oh, 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 oh. Whoa, oh, 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 whoa, oh, whoa, oh, 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 oh. Whoa, oh, whoa, oh, whoa, oh, whoa, oh, whoa, oh, 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 whoa, oh, oh, oh. Oh, 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 oh. Thank you.
If I just want to take a moment just to raise our hands to the Stoho people and just to, like he said, just to raise their hands up. If anybody in the audience of the Snohomish people, just really raise them up high. They're still here. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm again amazed every morning at the beauty that is our community. We welcome Dr. Janice R. Green back to Edmonds College. Dr. Green is the president and CEO of Women's Business Enterprise Council Pacific and the president of the NAACP Snohomish County. Dr. Green will read our Black Labor Acknowledgement.
So we honor the legacy of the African diaspora and the contributions Black people have made worldwide and in the USA. It is through the labor of Black people, both free and enslaved, that U.S. economy is one of the most successful in the world. We also acknowledge the essential contributions Black people have made to the culture, innovation, expertise, education, and knowledge that are undeniably a benefit to society. Finally, we give honor to all who have stood in the face of white supremacy and opened doors, cleared paths, and advocated for equity in labor, art, society in general. Thank you.
It is now my honor to introduce our keynote speaker. Darnesha Weary is the co-owner of Black Coffee Northwest and the CEO and owner of Let's Do Work. Both organizations focus on social justice and engaging youth in leadership opportunities. A certified regional trainer and a true champion of culture and engagement, her MA is in counseling psychology from Capella University. Her list of volunteering is truly extensive, which makes perfect sense because she is a sister of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. Please join me in welcoming our Edmonds College alumna, Darnesha Weary.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. It is such an honor to be here today. And thank you for the shout out. Yes, I am a member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. I love Zeta Phi Beta, so thank you so much for that. So today, as I start thinking about what I was going to talk to you all about and given what happened yesterday and how I'm feeling about the beautiful display of culture that I saw yesterday, the only thing I left with yesterday was being fired up and being fired up even more to push the work forward. We have some things to do, y'all. We have some work to do. And I hope you feel the same. Yesterday, beautiful. I was like, let's celebrate. But now it's time to get to work. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We got some work to do. When I thought about facing the rising sun, I had to think about, I'm a person who likes to, I'm always curious. So I like to find out like the text and who was the writer and what was going on back then. And we know the story, for most of us will know the story. But when I think about facing the rising sun, to me, it means facing new beginnings, doing something different. Doing something different. That's what we need to do. And so I was going to first name this talk with you as what am I going to face in 2021 to move the work of justice and Black liberation forward? That was my first title. And then I began to think, because again, I love words. And so I was like, going insinuates that we've already made the decision. And I don't know if everyone's already made that decision yet. I feel like there's some people that are still trying to figure this thing out. They feel fired up from yesterday. They feel excited. They know something needs to happen, but we don't know quite how to do it yet. And so my question to you and to this crowd is, what are you willing to face in 2021 to move the work of justice and Black liberation forward? Because willing to me requires sacrifice. Willing requires you to have to actually do it and do something. And I looked up the meaning of willing, and willing means being ready, eager, or prepared to do something. And I was like, okay, there it is. Like I'm going to the store, that's different from I'm willing to go. I need to plan. What are we going to do? How are we going to plan to move this work forward? Because we have to be strategic in order to do it. It's very, very important. And so the three things that I thought about being willing to move this work forward, being willing to move towards justice and a place where everyone has equal access to all resources, in education systems where every child is seen as a rising star and they're all treated the exact same, in a place where I can go to a classroom and see myself reflected in my education. I can go to my job and see myself reflected in the top level, senior level. I always talk when I work with organizations, I was like, you don't want to be snow-capped mountains. And what I mean by that is the higher you go in the organization, the wider it gets. We don't want that. We want to have more at the top. We want to have more seats at the table. So how do we do that? Uh-oh. Can you guys hear me? I got a note that says that.
No, you're still good.
Oh, okay, sorry. I'm trying to catch the notes. Sorry about that. All right, so how do we do that? And how do we start rebuilding? Because that's really what we need to start doing. We need to start rebuilding. And so the things that I thought of for that is that first we need to reflect. We need to reflect and acknowledge what happened in 2020. We need to be real about what happened in 2020. We need to have those hard conversations about the things that took place at the Capitol building 2 weeks ago. We need to have those hard conversations and reflect. Reflection is really hard for some people sometimes because we get caught in our feelings and we just want to move forward, right? But it's very important because in reflection, to me, it brings maturity and clarity. And it actually also slows you down and it has you think about the experiences and everything that you've had, because I believe that everything we experience in life is designed to build us. It's designed to challenge us, and it's designed to make us do better and want to be better. And I don't know about you, but I know in 2021, I want to be better and I want to see better. And I want organizations and schools and all these systems to do better. And so that's what it takes, is that we have to take time to sit back and reflect, because what I don't want is that everyone feels stimulated and ready to go and we just move on. In fact, sometimes when I sit in meetings or we're talking about equity, like we're just move on, I'm like, no, let's not move on. Let's talk about this thing. Sometimes it requires just sitting in it because we're trying to be different. And so I believe that reflection, again, brings maturity and clarity, and that reflection is a time for us to look back on the things we have experienced, because I believe all of those things are designed to build us, to mature us, and to prepare us to move the work forward. So reflection is very important, because I don't know about you, but for me in 2021, I'm trying to move different. I want to talk different. I want to show up different. I want to do equity work differently. I want to look at systems differently. There's a lot of things that we need to do different, because we talk about normal and what normal is and going back to normal. I feel like this is the time for us to create the new normal. The time is right now. Our generations after generations are going to look back in this moment and see what we did, and this is going to be the new normal. And so it's very important that we be strategic about that, and we take time to plan and reflect about that, because we need to have the right perspective in order to move this work forward. And the number one thing that I'm looking at in 2020 is just, it's very simple. What wasn't fair? What wasn't fair? And if things aren't fair, what do we do to make them become fair? What do we need to do? And start writing those things down and start moving towards those actions and start looking at, how are we going to define success in this work? What does success look like in this work? When I'm talking with a lot of groups and we're talking about organizations and moving equity forward, a lot of times I ask, how is your work doing? And they say, it feels good. It feels good. I feel good doing this work. It feels good. And I'm like, but feeling good doesn't get the work done. Feeling good does really nothing for us. Feeling good, we can do a lot of feeling good and actually move backwards. We can do a lot of feeling good and actually move and actually not move anywhere. We can do a lot of feeling good and sit in the same space. And so it's time to feel good, but it's also time to put action behind those words and get things moving forward, because it's the time to create that new normal. I'm excited about that. I'm so excited that we get the opportunity to create the new normal. And so in order for us to do that also, it's important for us to get to know who we are. Who are we as individuals? What do we want to do? What do we want to be? How do we want to show up? What's going on in the world? What do we need to address? What do we need to stop? All of those things are so, so important. We're talking about creating this new normal. And the third thing I wanted to talk about is reflecting, being strategic, preparing. Defining success is to take daily action. What are your daily actions going to be to move the work of justice and Black liberation forward? What are you going to do every single day? So I think about this. For me, my daily actions actually determine my strategy, which actually determines who I am. So I sit in lots of meetings and we talk about future planning. We talk about, these are the things that we want to do. We want to have more diversity in staffing and hiring, and more diversity in our board. And we want all of our students and all of our staff to feel included. But what are we doing every single day to make sure that happens, that we move towards the goal? And what are the things that we're measuring to do that? Because if you can't measure it, how do we know we're reaching the goal? So we need to really have those conversations, because there's a place for everyone in this work. There's a place for you in this work. There's a place for me in this work. There's a place for the next person, the person next to you in this work, if you're ready to do the work. But you really have to figure out, what is it you're going to do? And what are you going to do every single day? It doesn't have to be this big gesture. You don't have to do this big, huge thing. What are you doing every single day? It could be, there's a person, a job opportunity that opened up that you're going to make sure a person of color gets. If you work in HR and you have the power to ensure that happens, that's something you can do. It can be telling someone about a job opportunity and saying, hey, I think you're great for this opportunity. Let's have a conversation about preparing you for this opportunity. It can be, it can be talking to someone that you've never spoken with, asking the questions that are hard to ask, sitting with some things that you have to sit with for yourself. But those are the things that we need to do every single day. And I would suggest and advise to everyone here that's listening to actually make a list of things that you're going to do every single day, because that's what's going to start to create your momentum to move the work forward. That's what's going to get you more comfortable. I talked about racism the first time. It was hard. It was hard. I was uncomfortable. I had to talk to my family. I had to talk to friends. It was a horrible conversation. But the second time I did it, it got a little better. And the third time I did it, it got a little better. It got a little easier. And the fourth time and the fifth time. So what are you going to do every single day to move this work forward? Because we have a lot of work to do. And I really just want to relay the message that there's a place for you. And that as we create this new normal, figure out what your place is and figure out what you can bring to the table and just do that. You don't have to master everything. Master what you do and know what that is and walk in it boldly, walk in it free, and walk in it ready to make some change and to shake some things up. There's some tips that I had for myself in this year because 2020 taught me a lot about myself. It taught me a lot about who I am as a racial equity, as an educator, as someone who talks about the Black agenda and who's out working on behalf of Black people in my community. Who am I? And I realized that there's some things that I'm going to have to give up in 2021. And that's working in the racial equity work and doing it with through the lens of white comfort. And so I would do my work. And I would say that I would coddle the conversations about racism. I wouldn't tell the truth all the time because in a position, especially when I was employed, sometimes that meant, am I going to keep my job or not? Sometimes that meant if an opportunity came up, am I going to get passed over because someone's going to say that I'm angry or mean or, or too loud or all these things that I had been feeling. And so I got very quiet. I softened my truth so I didn't hurt anyone's feelings. I softened my truth so I didn't offend anyone. And what I had to realize is that did absolutely nothing. I had a lot of feel good, but my feel good was moving us backwards. My feel good was doing nothing for the group. We didn't move forward at all, but we felt good. I felt comfortable. The people I around felt comfortable. We got lots of tears and high fives and lots of great time and lots of great meetings. And I brought the snacks to the meeting and we had an agenda and we got through it, but we didn't do anything. So in 2021, I'm committed to tell the truth no matter what, in all spaces and no matter what it risks. And I know that being a Black person, being a Black woman in these roles, sometimes I always feel like I'm risking something by saying something. And I will not walk in that fear ever again. And I hope that helps someone on this call today. If you are in a position of leadership, I will never walk in that again. I will always speak my truth because that's what's needed to move the work forward, even if it's not cute. Even if the truth ain't cute, I will commit to saying it, saying the things that need to be said. Because again, we're creating that new normal. And when I think about the new normal for me, I'm like, okay, we can do this. We have the same infrastructure, right? We'll have the same, when school opens back up, you're going to go back to the same classroom, but have new thoughts, have a new perspective. Have a new way of doing things, have a new way of challenging things. You're going to have the same faculty and staff, the same bodies at the table, think differently. Those are the things that you can do every single day. Start your meeting off differently. If you don't have an anti-racist statement at your school or in your department or in where you're at, put that on your meeting agenda. Have it right there, front and center. That's a small thing that you can do every single day. Have everyone on your staff learn the Black National Anthem, all 3 verses. Okay, there's 3 whole verses to that song. Learn it, recite it, have that be a part of how we open our meetings now. We open our meetings by singing the Black National Anthem or reading it or reciting it so it becomes, so we memorize that, so our children can hear that, so future generations can hear that over and over and over, that message. That we're going to march on, that we have work to do, that we're here right now, but there's a new day coming. And in that next 24 hours, we're going to do something different to move this work forward. And that's what we're going to commit to. We're going to commit to doing something different. So also, the same tools might be available. The same tools might be there. And I'll say it's important for you to know what are the tools? What do you have? What are your resources? Who can you talk to? Who's on your team? Who understands this work? Where are they? Who are the decision makers? Like, start gathering your resources. I write mine down. I'm someone that has to write. When I get a thought, I always have my phone with me. My phone, it's always with me. And in my notes section, it's full of notes. It's full of just thoughts that I have when I'm going through, or when I'm in a meeting, or if I say something, or if I mess up. To me, when I make a mistake, I'm like, I'm only going to make that one time. And then if I have to put a note on how to respond to something differently the next time, that's what I do. Whatever you've got to do that works for you is what you need to do. So if you have the same tools, have a new mission. If you have the same brains at the table, have a new vision. Because normal, what we knew of normal, it didn't work. And I know in this work, I used to seek validation a lot. I used to seek validation. Like, again, it felt good. Let's talk about it. Did I do a good job? That's great. But now when I think back at the things that people validated, I'm like, you validated that? When I reflect back to even myself, or even in the communities that I live in, some of the things that have been validated probably shouldn't have been validated. And so we're going to move forward in this work without seeking validation, because you're not always going to get it in this work. Because being the one that always says and brings out the things that are not fair means that you're not going to get validated every single time. And that's the reason why it's time to prepare and plan and be strategic in this work. So when you're challenged, you know who you are. When you're challenged, you know what to say because you've done the work of preparing. And that's the number one thing I want you guys to walk away with today, is that you must prepare and be strategic. Don't let this moment be the momentum to just push you. I want it to push you, but push yourself strategically. Organize and plan. Know who your resources are, know what tools you're going to need, know what did not work. And if it did not work, change it. Change it. And don't say it's too hard. Don't say, I don't know where to start. It doesn't matter if you don't know how to start, just start. I give an example for me. I started doing keto about 2 years ago. I didn't know how to start. I researched, right? I was like, what are the shopping lists? What are this and that? I had all the things right there, but I still didn't make the decision to start. So I was like, well, let me just research some more. No, boo. You had all the tools, you just needed to do something. So I did something the first day, which was follow the plan. It was hard, but the second day it got a little easier. The third day it got a little bit more easy. And now it's just who I am. And that's my strategy. It just came together due to my daily actions. And so you need to check those daily actions. What are you doing every single day? And we talk about facing the rising sun. The sun rises every single day. I don't know if you're a morning person, but I'm definitely not. So I've only seen it 1 or 2 times because I can't do mornings, okay? But the sun rises every single day. And that's what you need to think. Every single day you have a new opportunity to do something different. You have a new opportunity to disrupt. You have a new opportunity to tell the truth about a situation. You have a new opportunity to do something new every day. And so I started Black Coffee out of response. We opened Black Coffee Northwest really out of the response of the community. We needed a place to be. We needed a place as a Black community to think sometimes without having to worry, are we going to be safe? Our youth needed to see that you can be a Black entrepreneur. Our youth needed to see that you can be Black and you can be a boss and you can own things and you can do things. And not just me, but you can do it. So that's really what Black Coffee is. It's youth centric. Everything involved in this company has youth. And I hope if you saw the National Poet Laureate and all of her melanin, I can't even put it in words because I feel like my words would not do it justice. That young woman told the truth. And I really believe that's why a lot of adults try to silence our youth, because our youth tell the truth. No matter what, they speak it. And so it is very, very, very important that we continue that work forward of telling the truth and knowing what we're doing every single day to move it forward and listening. At Black Coffee, our youth are in charge of our marketing. Every single thing that you see come out on our social media platforms, from our graphics, from our design, from what they want to say, designed by youth, high school students, kids at school that are still getting told to this day that they're not good enough by their educators. Kids that go back to their classrooms and hear their English teachers tell them they're not good writers and they didn't put thought into their work. But yet they're able to get in front of thousands of people and speak their truth and write about it and have others hear it and tell a story and learn. I had to talk to one of the teachers about one of the students that we work with that's in a marketing class. And they were like, in order for this student to get a job, they need to learn these skills and their work is not up to par and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, go over to Black Coffee Marketing and take a look at what this student is actually doing and tell me why they can't perform like that in your classroom. Because it's clearly not them, it's you. And those are the hard conversations that we need to have and challenge every single day, is advocate for our babies. I call them my babies because the community tries to treat them like they're adults. The world tries to treat our Black youth like they're grown-ups. These are our babies. They're young minds. They have a lot of work to do. They know what to do. And now it's time for us to step out of the way and let them do it. And I tell you, it is not easy. It's hard because some say I have a control issue. Some say that. Don't believe that, though. So it's really hard to step out of the way and let them lead. But there comes a time for me in this work that the youth got to pick it up and go. The youth has to pick it up and keep it going. It's time to pass the torch and let them do it in whatever way works for them and whatever way they're going to reach the masses. And right now it's social media. Social media is the platform for our activism work because that's where everybody's at. And so if they're there, then we're going to challenge there. And then when that changes, we're going to move to wherever the people are and we're going to challenge them there in that space. Because that's what's needed, everyday action. You need to make sure you can pivot quickly, that you can respond to the community quickly. And that's what I love about Black Coffee, is that we're able to pivot quickly and respond. Because the community and the Black community and the Black voice, we've made that our number one priority. And so with that being our number one priority, we've learned that other people's priorities may not be our priority. And the number one thing that we're going to learn, the number one thing that I'm going to learn in 2021, that's on my list, is the power of saying no. Whew, that's a hard one for me, is the power of saying no. Because there are some things that we just need to say no to. There are some policies in place right now in all institutions that we just need to say no to. That doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. We need to change it. It doesn't work. Over and over again. There are a lot of things that people are going to try to put in your plate as their priority, as their rush. If this is something that they need, if that's not moving you towards your goal and your vision, say no. who I have to keep y'all. When I say who, I'm talking to myself, okay? Because it's really hard for me to say no. But there's things that we need to say no to and stand up to. When you see things that are not fair, when you see things that are not just, when you have a decision to make, when you sit in a position of power and you can make that decision and do the right thing, do it in 2021. Do it. Maybe you got to start small, and that's okay. Make a small decision and build your momentum. Build the trust that you have within yourself to be in those big spaces and big places to make the big, when you get to that place to make those big decisions that you personally have the confidence and the momentum to do it. So start small. Start every day. Again, I'm going to keep saying that. It's going to be in your everyday actions, and see every day as special, every day as an opportunity, because the work of justice is unpacked every single day. Black coffee is a true testament of that, and I'm very proud of that. Every single day, we set the expectation of what we need. Every single day, I tell those youth what my expectation of them is in that day. This is what we're going to do today. It may look like it's chaotic and it's busy and there's a lot. People are like, how do you do all these things? On Monday, we were in Everett, downtown. The shop was open. We held 2 marches. How do you do that? It's easy now because we took the time to build the foundation and plan and be strategic. We took the time to make sure we know who we were as a community, to know what our goals were, to know what we're going to say no to know what we're going to focus on. So now when all the things happen, and even when distractions happen, they don't distract us anymore because our eye is on the goal. And if it does distract us once, it won't distract us again. Because let me tell you how when things distract us in Sarasov, I literally will write those things down. I write them down so it won't happen again. And when I get close to making maybe a wrong decision or not moving us forward, I am someone that's visual. That's what works for me. It may not work for you, and that's fine. That's why I will continue to say, find what works for you. That's what works for me, is I have to read it and I have to see it. And I have to know that every day I have an opportunity to do something different. Every day may not feel good because those feel good moments for me didn't do anything in my work. Every day. And I believe that your destiny is determined how your days are spent. Your destiny is determined on what you think about every single day. Your destiny is determined by your daily actions. Your destiny is determined by what you say no to, what you prioritize, what you stand up to, what your daily goals are. And that becomes your strategy that builds momentum and that gets you to your destiny. And that's what's going to get us to facing that rising sun every single day, because the sun is going to rise no matter what. And that can be we can think of the sun is going to rise. That's a beautiful thing. That's a wonderful thing. But also the sun is going to rise, meaning it's going to shed some light on some new things and some new areas that we're going to have to talk about, and some new things that we're going to have to tackle, and some new things like when the sun comes up and you start to see around you. And I believe that's what's happening in our communities now. The sun has risen and your eyes are starting to see things differently. And my favorite quote is, when you know better, do better. When you know better, do better. So when the sun rises and you see something differently and you hear something differently and you know better, then do better. Because now you've made a conscious decision. No more unconscious. When the sun shines on that thing, you've made a conscious decision, whatever decision that was. And so I leave that with you today, is as you face the rising sun, know that the work is going to be in your everyday actions, in your everyday decisions, and that do not skip the reflection piece of that. If you need to reflect every day on the last 24 hours, then ask yourself, what did I learn in the last 24 hours? What did I gain in the last 24 hours? What did I value in the last 24 hours? What were my priorities in the last 24 hours? What did I say no to in the last 24 hours? And what did I find value in the last 24 hours? And did that push my work forward? Did it push the work of Black liberation forward? And if it did not, don't do it again. Let that be your last day of doing that. So with that, in closing, I just encourage you all to please look at your daily actions. Know that every day is a new day of new beginnings, and to build a new future and to start our new normal is right now. And I want nothing else but for our Black community to be free. Nothing else but for us to be free. So thank you again so much for this opportunity. And I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Steve, Dr. Woodard.
Thank you. Yeah, please, everybody. I know you're in a weird space, but I hope I can feel it. This the applause. I want to just pause for a second and say thank you. I noticed you're wearing purple. I don't want to touch your words. They were too gorgeous, but I want to acknowledge that purple. First and foremost, red and blue together make purple. Appreciate that. But as you've demonstrated today very clearly, purple also represents nobility. It also represents divinity. You have embodied both of those on our behalf, and we appreciate you for that. So folks, there are over 100 of you in the room with us right now. That is truly a blessing in and of itself. But we want to turn this around now and allow you to actually engage with our fabulous keynote speaker. So some of you have been dropping comments and questions in the chat. We want to encourage you to do that. And we have moderators who have been monitoring that and will most likely chime in with a question. That said, I will kick us off with the first question, and then we'll open it up for anyone else. So again, we're watching on the side here for questions. This is giving you a chance to add your questions in while you listen to my question. And really, my question is pretty straightforward. What's the role of family in all of this, if you're willing to share your journey in that regards, because I personally happen to know that family is a big part of who you are.
What's the role of family? It's very important. I, as a mom, I'll tell you, like in my family, we had to really define who our family is. And I've learned that sometimes they're not all blood related, right? I've learned that in 2020, I've had to define who my family is. I call them who's our writers, right? It's very important to me that my daughter sees herself in me. It's important that I bring my kids along on this journey, and that our kids know that they can do better than mom and dad. They can do better than me. I want them to do better than me. Bringing my husband along in this work has been really hard, and I have never done it except for this year, out of fear. I was afraid that he was gonna, he's a protector. He wants to make sure we're protected, and we were going to these spaces and places that wasn't always safe. And so I kept him away intentionally because I didn't want him to be in a space where he would have to protect. Okay? Because he's gonna protect me, and he'll protect me at all costs. And that way, take away from the message of the day. So family is very important for me. I've gained new family in 2020. I've gained new sisters and friends and a community, which I love so much. But as a Black woman, as a Black mother, and as a Black who's married to a Black husband who has Black children, I celebrate that. I celebrate that. I celebrate my Black husband because he's a protector and a provider, and I'm out loud about that. And I just, the beauty of the Black family, I don't know, it just does something to me. I love it. I love it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Others, here's your chance. I've done the math with 100 of you in here. I only need 10% of you to speak up. How's that? We'll keep the bar low. We also have, just so folks have some idea who's in the room, we have our absolute senior leadership in the form of trustees and vice presidents here. We have true leaders in the form of our faculty here. We have our truest leaders, our students, and our truest of truest future leaders, I hope, who are in the room, potential students of ours. We've made an intentional effort to reach out to some of our students who are thinking about Edmonds College. So here's a question coming from one of our newly stepping into leadership roles, formally, Eduardo Torres, which is, Do you have any thoughts on overcoming the fear of confrontation? What a wonderful question.
I do. I would say start small, disrupt small, and build your momentum. Just get in the habit of disrupting. Because that's really that's where the conflict lies. And usually it's because it needs to be said. And so I would call myself back in the day, like I'm a non-confrontational person. And to me, it was just an easy way for me to hide and not have to say the things that need to be said. So I was like, well, I'm not going to say nothing because I'm non-confrontational. Now I'm just a truth teller. And so if the truth needs to be said and it causes conflict, just know that's not you. If it's the truth, it's not you. You can say it, how the other person takes it, that's on them. And I say, that's on you, how you take it. If you're mad about it, then I say, go back and reflect on that then and figure out, why are you so mad? Why are you so mad? That's not me, that's you. There's many things I do every day that would cause a conflict, or there's many decisions that I make every day where you're frustrated, you're mad, and you want to avoid, but you got to do it anyway. And I would just say, start small. I literally teach the kids when we talk to our youth is to, in class, like raise your hand and just ask the question, why? We always say, so why are we doing this? And we're like, oh, that's how we've always done it. Well, why? Is it working? So sometimes I put things in my notes. Honestly, when I first started this work and I was very uncomfortable with confrontation, I would put open-ended questions or questions that I could ask in those moments when my adrenaline's rushing. I literally have hundreds of them in my phone. So when I would get frustrated, I would just open my phone and read. Because that's what I needed in the moment. And so whatever you need to do to be in the moment, to be successful in that, do that for yourself. And then practice. I have teenagers, so I can practice conversation every day at home. But yeah, I would just say practice it. That sounds weird to say, but it's true. I would say practice it. Practice it and have a plan for yourself. And when you get into those spaces, how do you react in those spaces? If you get angry and you use your words or you stir them up, like what are those things? And then do different.
Right on. One of the hardest parts of doing social justice work, it's also the easiest, which is to acknowledge when you've made a mistake. And I made a mistake earlier. That beautiful question actually came from, I'm going to probably say your name wrong, Milaka. Milaka, I'm probably saying that wrong. Thank you for your question. I see you have another one. Here comes a question from, and I'm not sure if I'm going to say this name right either, but I will be acknowledging names. Sison. Great question in context. Last year, local high school students pushed for mandatory anti-racism education in their schools. How can we bring that to Edmonds College and other schools?
I would say how you can bring that to any institution and other schools is just keep saying it and keep bringing it and keep shedding light on why we need it. Keep telling the story. Keep telling people and start to build your team. Start to build your personal board of directors, start to build and figure out who makes the decisions. I call myself sometimes like an infiltrator because I like to know who makes the decisions on these things. And so put yourself on those committees that makes the curriculum decisions. I didn't know how to pass curriculum at in a school system period. When we talked about that in the high school in Shoreline, I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what these committees were, but I saw calls for, like, they were, we need you to sit on this committee. I was like, okay. Like, I made myself available so I could be in those spaces and places and hear how this thing works. And then when I put myself in those spaces and places, and then I knew who to go to. And then I knew who to, I'll say annoy and bother and say the same thing over and over and over and over. And then when I got to the decision maker, it was just like, okay, so why aren't you making this decision? Like, why aren't you making it? And they can't pass the buck anymore because I know you're the one that makes this decision. Why aren't you making the decision? And it was hard for people to say no because, again, I put myself on every committee that I thought would lead to that. And some of them were a waste of my time, right? I was like, oh, this ain't the one, on to the next. So I would just say, keep pushing, keep pushing.
I sure hope that's still happening. Are we still on? No.
It looks like she's dropped, but we'll try to get her back. So, stall.
Okay, I was just making sure it wasn't me. Sometimes it's me. Did I freeze? Hey, this is always a wonderful point to be made. I remember a colleague and good friend of mine, Kathy Coffey, leadership in Snohomish County, who kicked us off this year with a reminder, no one signed up for this. So I love hearing the dogs in the background and dropping and internet blocking in and out. That said, we will double back to Malaka, if I'm saying your name correctly, to your question. I think that's a beautiful modification. So I see your question when Darnesha rejoins us. We will go there. And we have a second question as well that's coming in from Sean. We do see your question. While we're waiting for Darnesha to come back, this is probably a good time as any to remind you all, first and foremost, thank you for joining us. Do stick around. Thank you for joining us. As I said, there's been over 100 of you with us today, and we want to be as clear as possible that we look forward to being back together in the physical sense of that all in the Black Box Theater, if not later this year in 2021, then for sure in 2022. And quite frankly, our fingers are crossed that vaccinations work. Thank you for lining up for doing those. I know Edmonds College is also a part of that process as a site, but we also want to remind you that really you've got the easiest and so far closest to proven strategy beyond staying home, of course, which is please mask up. Right. My plan was to do my talk through here just to show you that we can still hear you and that you won't pass out. Your ears might bend just a little bit, but we really do want to remind you the best way so far that we're seeing to get back together is through masking up. That said as well, we know that there are a number of opportunities to participate in what I'm going to call MLK-themed events throughout the year. January is not the only time this one day, the day of service. And February, Black History Month, is also not the only time. This should be a year-long experience. And with that in mind, we want to direct you to Edmonds College's website in particular, where you can find out information, because not only do we want you to participate, we also want you to get involved. That's been a hashtag running around all of 2020. I hope that you've been living up to on your own, which is hashtag get involved. If you're interested in future sponsorships or volunteering or participating or even just attending, or even more importantly, you want to partner with us, we ask that you reach out to Edmonds College in particular, directly, anyone who is associated with this, myself, as well as anyone on this committee. But you can also link to our library for guides, volunteer opportunities, and other resources, and that can be found at edmonds.edu/arts and culture, all one word, /MLK. If that was too much to remember, you can go to the website edmonds.edu/ and just do MLK. And right now that will redirect you to that longer list serve. So I am not stalling. I am actually thinking of other important things to say to you, which is also just to remind you, if we haven't already locked you in for 2 o'clock, please continue your journey with us at 2 o'clock right here on this same channel. So the same link that you used earlier should work perfectly, where we will continue this dialogue in a different capacity. There we will be doing a creative exploration of civil rights in America as we continue facing the rising sun. And that next event will include original poetry, music, as well as treaties on civil rights from students, faculty, and staff. So that's what I call timing, because stepping back into the room almost immediately as I finished on my point is our keynote speaker. Welcome back. No worries. Don't even apologize. We've been pointing out no one signed up for this. I can hear my dog squeaky toy in the background. This is a good time to double back to Malaka's question, which originally I read as thoughts on overcoming fear and confrontation using they, them pronouns. They then corrected us and said, really, we should have qualified the question with physical confrontation. This particular person, oh no, I'm sorry, I'm confusing you with Sison. Malaka, she says, I have qualified my question with physical confrontation. I have a physical disability and I'm afraid of speaking up, but I am afraid of being attacked by white supremacists. So going back to that idea, how do you overcome that fear of the actual physical confrontation?
Gotcha. So I would say how I overcome that fear is really keep my safety in mind. And sometimes if I feel like I'm putting myself in a situation, I use my own intuition, right? Like I feel like that's very important, is to listen to yourself. And if you feel like you're in a situation that it may turn physical, then I would leave that situation. I wouldn't be a part of that. Safety is number one. We have definitely put ourselves in harm's way a lot over the summertime when we were out protesting every single weekend, especially with children and youth in mind. There was a lot of horrible things that did happen to myself and our kids that we work with. But I want to say, I'm not going to put myself in a situation where I can be physically harmed. And if that starts to escalate to that manner, then I would remove myself. If that, that's really the only thing I could say. Is just kind of listen to your body, listen to your instinct, listen to yourself, and make sure we need you. Like at the end of the day, we need you to be here to continue the work forward. And so that's what's most important, is protecting yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. I want to double back to Sean's question, which is a different direction, one near and dear to my heart as the Dean of Access of Completion, which is, what has been your biggest factor that helped you be successful in your educational journey?
Understanding the educational system, like understanding how all of it works together. And knowing that the system wasn't created for me to win or for me to be successful, and that a lot of the work that's been put into, like, especially the equity work, are really, like, I call them stopgap programs, because the institutions know it's not working. And so disrupting those systems, understanding what they are, and then disrupting them and changing them. And I know that now, because I have a daughter also who's a senior, and that's how we're teaching her to move forward. Ask the questions, challenge the system, and then know who you are. Why are you there? I was in school at the beginning when I first started. I mean, I loved school. I went to college because that's what I thought that was what I was supposed to do, right? Like I did all the things, took all the classes, and then I started narrowing down, like, what do I want to actually do? What is my end goal? What is my plan? And then I started working backwards on everyday actions, every class I took, to make sure that I was reaching that goal. But then I had to understand how complex the education system is. And it is a lot. I'm still learning every day how to do it. But just staying focused and knowing what your goals are, and also knowing that it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy, but just remain committed, and keep going forward. So that would be that's what worked for me. And again, it may not work for you, but that's what worked for me.
Thank you. We have two more questions, and then we're just going to close this out. Thank you all for sticking around. I think these next two equally are worthy of your time, as have the previous questions. This next one actually comes from Kara Homer. You might wonder why I'm giving names, because I want to make sure that people own their thoughts. That's part of being brave, facing the rising sun. So Kara's question is, it can be easy to hide from confrontation and action in our digital setting. Well said. Do you have any recommendations or insight for forward momentum and action when our mediums have changed?
Wherever it needs to be said, say it. So whatever needs to be done, do it. And whatever method is at that moment in time, do it. Right now it's social media, right? I do a lot of our activism, I say a lot on social media because that's where the people are. When the mediums change, when things change, if you're back into a hybrid situation, wherever it needs to be said and wherever the people are, just do it in that way. So be fluid. Be fluid in your work. I do a lot of Zoom, like anti-racist trainings, but I see a lot of people have Zoom fatigue by the time we do our trainings at night. We're not getting anywhere. I leave the calls irritated and frustrated because I feel like we didn't move it forward. And so now I'm changing that. So I'm not doing anti-racist trainings on Zoom in the evening. Now I'm looking at like lunchtime, like let's change this, because at night people are over it. They don't want to be in Zoom calls anymore. And so just continue to be fluid in the work. Just know, if you know your message and if you know your goal, then your vehicle can consistently change as long as you're moving forward.
All right. One last question before we part ways and rejoin each other after lunch, if you will, at 2 o'clock, which comes from another one of our awesome employees, Simone, which the question is, what actions and behaviors can or should white people be doing and showing to be an instrument of unison and impactful in an alliance with our Black community?
Okay, that was a good one. I had to put on my college hat for that one. All right. White people, first and foremost, just need to be quiet sometimes and just listen. Be solution neutral. Being solution neutral is my favorite thing because that means you're going to listen to something and not try to solve the problem. You're just simply listening. I need white people to listen and sometimes get out of the way and let us do what we need to do for our own community. It's frustrating for me sometimes when I have white people challenge even my thoughts about how to engage with the Black community because I'm like, I'm Black. I know how to talk to my people because I know how to talk to them. And so sometimes like whatever your strategy is or whatever sometimes just get out of the way and let that go and let the person that is a part of that community, whatever community it is, lead. Let them lead and make sure they're a part of the conversation at the table, a part of the strategy meeting, that they're in throughout it. They're in every single part of it, because if they're not, then you're not doing it for them. You're doing it for yourself. And that's very dangerous. And we saw a lot of that in 2020, a lot of planning for themselves. And now it's time to include those. And sometimes that means white people are going to have to give up something. It may mean you have to give up your seat at the table. And I always say, you may have to give up your seat and go sit down somewhere else. And that's just what it's going to take. But every single day, listen and listen and listen and listen before you act, because some of those actions and I have to come in and fix it. And that's tiring.
Well said. Thank you for spending part of your day and sharing the lessons you have learned along your way with us, Darnesha. Truly a beyond gift, and I'm just messing it up with my own exit of what you did fabulously. Folks, that is going to wrap our first half of today's celebration. And as you head out for your lunch or you head out into the world again, I'm just going to leave it again with, please, mask up. You're not only saving your own life, you're probably saving the person next to you as well. You are appreciated, and we look forward to joining you at 2 o'clock on this same channel. Thank you all.